It is Wednesday, May 7th, 2:01 p.m., and I hereby call to order the Budget Committee of the Memphis City Council. Ms. Russo, would you please call the roll?
Chair Carlisle
Is present and observes a quorum. We have a lot to do today, so we have to get going. And I know yesterday was a long day. I was just talking. The good news about hopefully people's schedule is that I hope the roundtable were beneficial starters. It's funny. One of the comments was some members didn't have the questions to ask or didn't know what to ask, and that was a good benefit. The other was they got a first blush, so they're not completely caught cold if they can't make a meeting. That being said, we have a schedule to keep, and you guys all have jobs to do that you probably would like to get back to than sit here. So. With that being said, we will take the engineering's fiscal year 26 operating budget first. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Manny Belen with the Division of Engineering. So we're here to present our FY26 operating budget for the division. Slide 2 illustrates our org chart. As you can see, we have 5 service centers. Each one under those service centers have different, disciplines underneath it. So any questions on that? Next one is the division's authorized complement. Updating. Not reflecting on the...
That's right. It's a lag seat here. So you've got 72. Man, you and I've been doing this a long time.
Yes.
So let's just. So how is it coming for you on getting positions filled in your review, construction engineering review? I know has been, and even before you became the director, has always kind of been an up and down. I noticed that your posted vacancies have started to move. I mean, I haven't looked at professional services yet. How is that? How's the marketplace treating you these days in the labor market? It's
been pretty consistent. Our vacancies fluctuates around 10 to 15% in terms of vacancies. We're trying to do a lot more outreach with the universities to try to get more, technical individuals to come in. So we've been putting a lot of effort on trying to do that as well.
Is there a legal way to bifurcate? Basically having an intern do a lot of the plan review underneath a licensed PE or
we have done that.
Okay.
We're exercising that as we go along. We have engineering interns. We do have professional engineers that oversee those engineering interns as well.
Yeah, you guys have a tough gig in the sense that I recognize, one, you're engineers. You guys operate differently. I'm a business guy, a little chalk on the feet here and there. You guys have to play by the numbers, and I get that. But which makes it hard, technical. We've talked about salaries, expenses, things like that, just going through, because you also have all the liability if we don't do our jobs right, which is the hardest part. I think that's always the hard juxtaposition between the business side of whatever the entity is doing and your responsibility of saying, take a beat, right? But you're also responsible for getting projects moving and going, and that's the big thing where I always come back to: how is your manpower? How are your professional services? Are your vendors and really your contractors responding to you guys? Because I know at times, again, I'm not talking about our current, but generally speaking, we've had contractors who are like, this is not working. We're not getting the response we need. So my thing for y'all outside of the numbers is just goes back to, are you getting the support you need to execute your mission and get permits issued, get plans stamped, that kind of stuff. So with that being said, let's roll right into slide 5. Let's just go into your math.
So overall, from year to year, you're going to hear this across the board is the budget is flat from FY25 to 26. Our budget overall is roughly about 1.3% of the total budget for the mayor. So we're one of the smallest divisions with the smallest budget. But we're keeping it flat.
So real quick, so on your M&S, you're flat to budget, adopted budget, but you're forecasting what looks to be almost, what is that? 3 million. So roughly a 60%. It's a big swing. Big swing. So $3 million swing on forecast is, A, give me a highlight. And then two, I know your budget is flat, but can you bring that number back in line?
We're going to have to. There's no, from a forecast perspective, we can't.
I hear you.
We have to make sure that we maintain what our adopted budget is, right? And so, again, the forecast is based on our trends for the last 3 quarters.
Well, and that's what I'm saying to you is like talking going into 26. Like I hear the have to, and I'm having an honest conversation. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. It's the other way around. It's tell me if it costs you. It's one thing for me to come to you and say, hey, look, I need you to squeeze labor for 60 or 90 days. I need you to find me 3 points of labor. We got to bring this in line. In my world, it would be to hit EBITDA, right? I got a bank I got to talk to. I got investors I got to talk to. But the number is the number. My question to you in actuality is can you get to that? I know you're going to try your damnedest, but is it really 5.4? And if you want, I'm dead serious. I'll have this conversation with you offline, but I really just want to know. You've heard my themes from up here. I want to know where we are, good, bad, or indifferent. And if you think you can manage to a number, but it's not 5.4, but it's 6.5 or it's 6.6, but you actually think you can manage to that, I'd rather know that. I don't want to put you on the spot at all, but I'd love for you to think about that, and I'd love to have an ongoing conversation about that. Because it's that kind of stuff where I know that directives are sent down, and again, these are cross administrations. It happens at the county government. It's going to happen out in Germantown, Arlington. But what I want to do is make sure that we are getting to the number that we can really, truly manage to. And it's not, and I'll say one more thing just to give you some room to move within. We all get directives that we nod and say yes, sir, to, or yes, ma'am, to. And we do our best. We just don't have the room to miss. So I understand that you've been given a directive to manage to that number. We got to figure out whether that's actually doable. And it's not a technical skill set thing. I know that you guys are very technically sound at what you do, but you cannot control some of the cost. We have to conduct business, right? Like I can only cut labor and I can only cut paper and supplies to a point where we harm the business. We're basically, I think the directive that I've heard from the mayor is we need to get as close to that as humanly possible, but we have to be very honest about how we're going to do that. All right, let's keep, but I hear you. That's the only big one. And let's get into some of your budget drivers, et cetera, and then I've got good afternoon. The record will show we've got Councilwoman Cooper Sutton present and Councilwoman Walker. You guys keep rolling.
Yeah, so regarding some of the drivers that the engineering budget is going towards, there's 5 categories here. Public safety, outline some of the things that we do that supports public safety. So managing installation and maintenance of all traffic control devices. We administer and maintain signs and markings throughout the city. How we support economy here. So we regulate, manage, and support all incoming land development and developer projects. We support and coordinate with stakeholders to provide multimodal transportation activities throughout. How the division support youth. So school zones, we support, we do a lot of the school zone control devices. We collaborate and coordinate with MSCS to address any traffic safety needs along students' school routes. How we support neighborhoods. So with, in addition to traffic control devices, we also support our sister divisions with any of the public infrastructure work that occurs in and around neighborhoods and communities. And then last is how do we support arts and culture? We partner up with our Urban Art Commission to install, maintain, and manage a lot of our public arts. The next several pages outline some of our performance metrics. This is obviously not in whole. This is a snapshot of some of the performance metric that we keep track of. And majority of these are internal to us in the operation to ensure that our processes are in line. There are some that may be public facing, but majority of them are internal. And then if you have any questions in any of those metrics, feel free to ask. And the last slide is some of the challenges and risk that we see. So obviously, one of the things that we're challenged with is so with that, we'll.
Perfect. And for my colleagues, we took up, obviously, we're taking up the majority of general operating with the time. I know engineering can also have some heavy CIP. We'll address that towards the end since we have CIP coming Monday. Are there any questions operationally for engineering? So again, we'll have a wrap up, but please, and engineering is one that I've always encouraged. And Randall or Mr. Tatum, the city's traffic engineer, I know that can come around with intersections and speed humps. My advice on this particular group is to go meet with them individually. I've always found that easier because they've got so many moving pieces with federal, state grants and how that they have to stack these things in. So with that, and then we'll chat about that one big thing. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Let's get Public Works on up here. We've got Public Works, as everyone knows, has three. Are we calling them divisions? A division and two funds. Division and two funds. Scott, Director Morgan, how do you want to walk through this? Are we going to go? Do you want to go operating first, or do you want to take storm sewer? It's totally.
I'll do operating.
Storm sewer. All right, perfect. So, colleagues, if you'll flip to your book and you are looking for Public Works operating, not stormwater and not sewer, should be first one up. Whenever you guys take your time. Whenever you're ready, you just let me know. The floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Council. Scott Morgan, Director of Public Works, 125 North Main. This is, as Chairman mentioned, Public Works budget, three funds: General Fund, Stormwater Fund, and Sewer Fund. So moving to the next slide is Public Works legal level, and as you'll see that this reflects the structural change of the new division for community enhancement. Public Works will be left with three service centers. I'll be administration. There we go. A little bit louder, not.
They did this first year, right? We did this on purpose.
Absolutely. Keep me on my toes. It's all good.
Please let the record show that we've been joined by Vice Chairwoman Ranger Washington. Usually we try and get it up. We'll post it for the public. So let's just roll. You're good.
Keep going.
Everybody, yeah, I think we're
Everybody
okay.
got presentations? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll call out slide number. So slide 2, organizational chart, which involves street maintenance, and that's broken up into street maintenance as well as right-of-way maintenance. So moving on, slide 3 is our authorized complement, 121. Currently we have 15 vacancies. The majority of those vacancies are equipment operators and heavy equipment operators, where we have class commercial driver's license requirements. Oh,
Sorry, real quick. All right, let's do this. Sorry. Thank you, Director Moore.
Yes, sir. Okay, so back to slide 3, authorized complement for street maintenance, 121 employees. We have 15 vacancies, a little over, 7-8%. The majority of those vacancies are heavy equipment operators and equipment operators which do have class commercial driver's license requirements. Those are, have been, I guess, with the past couple years, been difficult to fill just due to the demand for CDLs. But with that, have actually implemented a trainee program, and where once we get the employee hired on, most of the jobs require the positions to have a CDL within 6 months, and we put those employees through a training class that the city pays for, and help them get their commercial driver's license. So hopefully that'll help fill the void as well. Moving on to slide 4, you see an overview of the budget. 52% materials and supplies. The majority of that is our, asphalt products for street paving. 43% personnel and 5% grants. That's the $950,000 that's transferred in for the hospitality hub work. So our key priorities will continue to, pave streets, fill potholes, maintain the right-of-way for litter and median mowing, and our snow and ice response for inclement weather. Slide 5, you'll see the historical comparison.
So I'm going to have the same question that I had for Director Belen.
Yes, sir.
And yours looks like an accounting. Hold on.
Well, what you'll see, you got a couple things going on with Public Works. So one, and you'll see it on the next slide, but one is the FY25 adopted budget, which includes the 5 service centers for community enhancement. FY26, of course, has those 5 service centers pulled out. So you'll see the net impact on personnel as well as materials and supplies. And then on the subsequent side, you'll see the full with neighborhood improvement in and with community enhancement in and community enhancement out. In addition, on the total revenue, you'll notice that the FY25 to 26, that includes the $6.5 million transfer from CIP for asphalt paving that was transferred in by resolution mid-year of FY25. Going forward on slide 6, you'll see it in the total revenues towards the bottom. Under FY26 Public Works, it's 14.75 as compared to 9 for the previous year, and that's because we're going ahead and programming that 6.5 million in. So we don't have to come back. Yes, so we don't have to come back to council mid-year. It doesn't make any sense. So slide 6 is the comparison with the Community Enhancement Division being pulled out, and you'll see their impact on all the expenses and the revenue, and then the variances from 25 to 26. You will notice there's a $903,000 difference on FY26, and that's because Public Service Corps, which is out of executive, is that piece of the budget. So that's not from Public Works, and that's the difference there. All right. In addition, y'all know we have State Street Aid as well as Fund 245 to help paving operations as well. So moving on to slide 7, as Director Belen said, this is, neutral budget, flat budget. Public Works will continue to deliver our core services. We have a great team. They're able to respond to the challenges, our inclement weather. We had 2 snow and ice events this year. Crews did great. We had the heavy rain event in early April, and we had over 140 trees down across the city that we responded to, 24/7. So that was, like a Wednesday through Sunday. So we'll continue to do those services, repair and replace guardrail, potholes, paving, like I said, and clearing the right of way. Next slide, slide 8. This is kind of going on to the CIP just a little, but the past couple budgets have approved $10 million for paving. Some of that is transferred into Public Works, and the other is housed in engineering for CIP. And that has gotten us about 105 lane miles on average throughout the years. This year, the request is $16 million, which will get us an extra 31 lane miles for FY26.
How's that coming, like, generally speaking? I mean, I know it's a year in, year out, and I know potholes are next, but they're not one and the same. But remind me what the recommended, and this is because I can't remember, what's the recommended lane mile per year for us that we want to cover on an actual cycle?
Well, we have 6,700 lane
Yeah.
miles that we're responsible for in the city. With current funding, we'd probably be on about a 45-year cycle.
That's right.
I mean, ideally, you'd probably want to be 25.
25,
years.
that's right. Yeah. So I just couldn't remember the gapping that we were at.
Right.
But the problem is kind of like we discussed bridges. And by the way, I have to give you huge props, and not to disparage anybody. I love the former director a lot. It means a lot to me. But recognizing, in major storms that we don't have to do every bridge in the city because some have like 2 cars a day, those things. So I guess going back to the lane miles, I know you guys identify usage and you work with Manny's team and TDOT, and what I would consider the top 70%, or we'll tell you what, in the top 4 quintiles, so 80% of working roads, where do you think, somewhere in there, where do you think we are on what you would establish or your profession would establish a functioning, well enough travel road? What is our actual cycle? And I know if you can answer that off the cuff, that'd be great, or generally, but if you have an idea, I'd generally be curious to know, because I think it's probably unfair, again, to be like, we have 6,700 lane miles, which is true, but we have some that, may see a car a week on them, or at the Cordova where there's literally a cove to nowhere. But I'm curious to know what that cycle is if you were to actually squeeze out your bottom 20% of untraveled roads.
We can get that, but one thing, and we've talked about it before, is, the city 2 years ago, we did a condition assessment of every city street in our limit. So vehicle was put out on the street, and a company called RAS, they had cameras all over it, assessed every road. So they're looking at cracks, potholes, alligator cracks, surface deterioration, and they scored all those streets. So each street segment, so intersection to intersection, has a score throughout the city. That's used to prioritize our paving, number one. But number two, it gives us a score. So, generally 60 to 65% and better are good to great streets, and then anything less, you got poor and fair. So I mean, right now, the majority, based on the scoring of every segment, the majority is 60%. There are 23% of the streets that are fair to poor, that will help prioritize our paving schedule as we go forward.
And of the scoring that would be considered worthy of the reinvestment, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's probably about $180 million to capture those 23%.
Would you mind getting someone on your team to send just the executive summary of that? Is there an executive summary?
Yes.
Yeah, just the executive summary. No thanks for the appendix.
Okay.
That's for your group. That's for the engineers.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's talk potholes.
Okay, so, in response to, some deteriorated streets, some not, but everybody kind of understands the life cycle of the pothole. You start with cracks, and, rainwater gets in there and cars traveling over it. Then if it freezes and thaws, it starts to expand and contract and forms those surface deteriorations. But we're on a, average of 2.2, 2.3 days to fill them once we're notified. Y'all seen the numbers before. This fiscal year, we've done 53,000 as of April 21st. Now, this is fiscal year. What I presented a couple months ago was calendar year, so you'll notice kind of a slight difference. But our crews do a great job of getting out there and filling them. We fill far more than what are reported through 311, just because our crews, a lot of calls are internally created from other crews seeing it, but also as the street crews go out there, they fill more than what was just reported. So.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it today, but I'd love to have a discussion now that you're in position. And I've told Joy 9,000 times I'm going to come see you. It's my fault. But I think it's more of a public discussion with the body. But I am curious to know, I think, how we identify hot patch, cold patch, I just think there's a lot, several members always remind me just about trying to do our best to educate the public. And I think, we don't want to get super technical, but we've addressed our relationship with MLGW, and now they're having, they're not doing patch cut work like they used to. That's a huge improvement. But then, you've got contractors. When Joy was interim, I'd call her. I was like, I just left the ground going southbound on Mendenhall because of a private contractor who was doing work, who came out into the street. Obviously they know it's going to settle, and I wasn't paying attention, but ultimately just how we handle some of those things, because there's just a lot of moving pieces. And then there are our favorite partners at AT&T, Verizon, and the like that are just running amok. And all of that, and then you take MLGW's data over the last 2 years about what they've dealt with, and you guys are a part of that, and how cold it's been, and then it pops, right? So these are not excuses. These are facts of the environment in which we work in. Now, we aren't perfect in execution either, and we always try to get better at that, but I think it's important to make sure that everybody, as best we can, understands the environment in which we work in Memphis. One, we got a lot of lane miles. Two, we got a lot of people driving. We got a lot of the heavy equipment. I know it's a state street, but I see a lot of trucks on 18-wheelers on the no 18-wheeler streets all the time. So it exacerbates a situation. And then the last thing I'll tell you is we've had this conversation for years, and this brings it back to budget, about the relationship with our in-house asphalt. I think it's one of our best opportunities. It's an asset that not many cities our size have. It just sucks because the weather always seems to hinder us in the time when you really want to fire them up, and especially over the last 2 years when it's gotten so cold. So those are like general thoughts that are related to the budget, but they're really also operationally, because you're now getting in, and it's the young administration, but it's your division. So I'm curious to know kind of like how you handled a different emergency management plan. What some of the things as you're getting into the year that, with a fresh set of eyes and kind of, the ability to recommend to the CFO, the CAO, and the mayor, where we can continue to find opportunities, even if they require incremental investment, kind of like we discussed yesterday with community centers or libraries. Theoretically, the cost should come down if we do X, Y, and Z. There may be a tick, but so those are some of the things that I'd like to see as far as your general fund operating budget.
Well, I'll address it just briefly, and then we can, follow up. But great questions. I think short term, having the asphalt plant is a great asset for the city. We're one of the few, across the country that have our own asphalt plant, so we're able to control, one, a lot of our costs, but two, when we can operate and when we can't, versus when the major asphalt players, turn on their facilities for the year. So, short term, I think there does need to be some investment as far as capital improvements into the asphalt plant so we can continue. There has been some repairs over the years, but there kind of needs to be, a little more overhaul on it. So that would be one thing. But I guess to follow in as far as the street repairs, so over the past probably 6-8 years, in conjunction with engineering, we changed a lot of the street cut details. So you cannot go out and do just, a 2x3 cut anymore. You can cut it, but when you go to repair it, you got to do full lane width restoration. You got to saw cut it. There's different permitting requirements now. If 50% of the street is cut, engineering's requirement to pave the whole street back. In addition to that, we work very closely. We get the paving list out to all the players, sewer, drain, MOG&W. If you have utilities in the street, make sure they're repaired, and here's when we're going to be there to pave the street, because we don't want the street cut as soon as we pave it. So that has cut down on a lot of angst, I know, from the citizens. Like, you pave a street and somebody's out there cutting it the next week. Right. So we have fixed a lot of, we're not going to solve everything because there's still emergencies, but we have made great progress in working with the other utilities to make sure they know where we're going to be paving. So,
that's great. Look, and I'll just to state the absolute obvious, it is so critical that we continue to push and evolve and question every day. Are we doing it the right way? Can we do it better? And that's the beauty about being in the staff, is the best ideas come out of the operations teams. Like that, it's funny too, because when you say it out loud, you're like, well, no duh, but it does sometimes just take getting out there and doing it and being a part of it. And my only advice to you as a senior director is, listen down line, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
All right. I don't think I've got any other questions on public works, but again, I think for the council, if I were to stipulate for everyone, if they were here, would be lane miles and potholes. So we'll probably have some more discussion, I think probably council level side on funding for that. As we talk priorities, I recognize it's a lean budget year. They do too, but It doesn't mean that paving might not go higher up in the priority check and get more money and something gets less and vice versa. So yeah, that's right. So, all right, we're going to move on into public works stormwater.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just say one additional thing about paving. The city crews with our asphalt plant, we do a lot of the interior streets, neighborhood streets, 2-lane unmarked streets, and that's what we focus on. And then the larger streets that go through CIP process are the marked streets with traffic signals, bigger, more lanes. So just kind of clarification. I don't see anything. You want to try again or no? Just keep. All right, so Public Works Stormwater, everybody got presentations on that. Slide 2 is a breakdown. We have 7 departments within Public Works, and then we also fund engineering design out of Division of Engineering. So, these are your services, flood control, which is related to our Mississippi River flooding. We have flood walls, levees, 7 pumping stations. Stormwater program is responsible for our MS4 permit on our public education. Sweeper department, has the street sweepers. Drain maintenance, they're out there clearing the inlets, walking the channel line ditches, doing any maintenance to the drainage system. Next slide is our authorized complement. 202 authorized complement, currently 38 vacancies. Since this was printed, 3 of those have been filled, so we're down to 33. But a lot of the same requirements like on we have CDLs,
highly professional,
just different skill sets, and some of them do have some higher turnover where you get people in and they either move up within the organization fairly quickly or they just leave for greener pastures. Next slide, slide 4, breakdown of spending. You got capital outlay at 11%, materials and supplies 42, and personnel 46. So, the kind of the key budget priorities, as many of y'all know, we have the MSQ2 program, so that's part of our large capital improvement program, where we have a program manager that is essentially helping us manage all the drainage basin studies that we've completed throughout the city, actually putting those into design projects and then getting them into construction projects. So we probably got about 30 or 40 design projects and probably 10 to 15 construction projects will happen in FY26. And we have WIFIA loans as well as stormwater revenue bonds for that.
Real quick, you mentioned something, and I want to stay on subject, but there was a question yesterday. When the city helped with the Overton Square project, it was in the Lick Creek drainage basin, right?
Yes, sir.
And when they built the garage, because of the impervious surface, the city funded the underneath, and it was like $12 million, right? Underneath the impervious surface. All right, I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
right.
the city funded the stormwater fund funded the underground detention part that is in the bottom of the parking garage.
All right, thank you. Sorry, it did come up yesterday, and while I had you, I was like, I'm going to answer this question.
And Public Works manages that facility. So there's pumps in there. There's a SCADA system in there, which is a remote monitoring system, and our flood control department in Public Works manages
Perfect.
that.
Thank you.
So going back to MSQ2, so we'll have 10 to 15 construction projects moving this fiscal year that'll help alleviate local flooding that's been identified throughout the city. Continue to provide inlet cleaning and maintenance, street sweepers, and then the stormwater pollution prevention, inspections, and education to keep pollutants outside of the storm drainage system. All right, we're working. So slide 5, historical budget comparison. So neutral budget, you will see some increases. I mean, we bring in roughly $37 million in revenue from the stormwater fee. Roughly the same number for personnel, materials, and supplies. You will see a slight increase on each just due to various personnel changes through HR, as well as just inflationary cost in your materials and supplies. And slide 6, you'll notice, I think everybody's aware, but stormwater fees on the MOG&W bill, it's paid by all the users in the city of Memphis, collected by MOG&W, transferred to the city on a monthly basis. And like I mentioned, the M&S inflationary costs.
Real quick bounce back to contributed to fund balance, slide 5. We had adopted a budget that we thought there'd be a $3 million transfer in, but because of the budgetary constraints, is this So wait, this is two fund balance.
Yes.
Yeah. Why are we electing not to make a transfer this year?
It says 1.8 on there.
Let's say
Oh,
I'm
you mean
talking
for
about
forecast.
Yeah, so I'm talking about ending this year. You were going to make just call it $3 million. We'd adopted a budget where Public Works was going to transfer $3 million from Stormwater into the general fund. It's forecasting 0. I'm trying to figure out if that is just an error on this sheet or we're not going to contribute $3 million from your fund into general.
Well, it's not transferring from enterprise fund to general. It's transferring enterprise fund into the bank of Stormwater. So
to your fund balance.
Yes.
It's intra.
Yes. It's enterprise fund balance.
Intra. Thank you. I had a minute there. Did you say that too? All right.
But that's a mistake. There will be
some sort of transfer, but
yes.
it's all inside the fund.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. I got to remember where fund balances are. So that's the Stormwater, the storm fund balance.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's intra.
Slide 7, one of our KPIs that we track through 311 is drainage inlets cleared. You can see the fiscal year number, averaging probably about 8,000, 8,500 each year to keep the drains cleared. So when we have localized, rainfall events, it keeps the water moving and out of the streets. And then slide 8, kind of saying we'll maintain our core services throughout this department, continue to function as Public Works has to make sure the drainage system is the best it can be.
Again, don't want to get into a long discussion about it, but at some point, I'm curious to know what alternative products may be out there in curb and gutter work, but really the gutter work for certain high-hitting areas where we know we constantly have clogs. There's got to be something from Shark Tank out there. I know that sounds so dumb, but it just there are certain areas in which I know we have. It kind of like crime. We have hotspot issues with certain inlets and gutters, just because of where they're located or the environment around them.
We have those mapped.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And those are anytime we're scheduled for heavy rain events, those are where we send our crews to make sure those are clean.
I will say for Eric Keene's part, as we look at 311, and again, this is a digression, but I think it's important because it all comes back together. Like when I texted you the other day, like with the tree down in Central Avenue. Yeah. That is the hardest part during storm is I think people don't know the fastest way. I mean, we may literally need a Public Works only opened up on storm day to like tweet the intersection of a drain. I mean, I don't know what it is, but half the time it's just, and I said this to somebody, they were complaining a couple of years ago on Goodlet about how the street was flooding. I was like, did you tell anybody? I was like, how did you know? Well, I drove by and I go, great. You're assuming that one of the few hundred Public Works people may have happened to have driven down this street in the middle of a rainstorm, or else we don't know. So, those are some of the things, and I love that we're integrating all the AI from the school buses, from the MATA buses, and from our. Do we have them on the solid waste trucks yet too? Yeah, some data. Yeah. But anyway, just continuing.
We're fixing to have 9 in Public Works. We have 7 currently. So yeah, love absolutely. Yeah, we always encourage everybody to report because if you don't report, we may or may not have it. So we always encourage everybody to report.
I'm coming for you, 311. All right.
Yes.
Let's keep going.
All right. So
moving on to sewer.
Third, FY26 Public Works Sewer Enterprise Fund. Page 2. This is the legal level. There's 7 service centers. You got your 2 wastewater treatment plants, lift stations, which are the pump stations out in the collection systems that pump wastewater when they hit lower elevations and have to get higher. Our industrial monitoring and pre-treatment program, so that's a program that permits all of our industries. We're about the 10th largest pre-treatment program in the country. We have over 100 permitted industries. And then you got our environmental inspection and maintenance team, which they every day constantly inspecting and fixing sanitary sewers throughout the city. So next slide, 367 authorized complement. This includes Public Works, 356 and 11-hour sewer design that we fund out of engineering, just like Stormwater. 68 vacancies since this has been posted. We have filled 9. A lot of the challenges here in wastewater, similar to the others, but our wastewater treatment plants require licensing requirements by the state of Tennessee to operate at the wastewater treatment plant. Those are hard to fill, as well as our mechanics at the treatment plant. We need qualified heavy industrial mechanics, and a lot of the ones we've been getting recently are just like small engine repair mechanics. So what we've done, in addition to the CDO program, about 10 years ago, we implemented a wastewater operator trainee program. So essentially, it's a 3-year program, and we get trainees in and essentially teach them the skills to be able to take the state test and pass the test, and hopefully stay on with the city. And then we retain more grade 4 operators. That's required at our treatment plant 24/7. We have to have a grade 4 operator on every shift at both plants. And the same for our maintenance mechanics. We implemented a trainee program this year. We partnered with More Tech. It's a 3 to 4 year program, and essentially they go to school part of the time, and then they come work at the treatment plant. The other part of the time, they have to meet certain grade requirements, but they will graduate with an associate's degree in like maintenance technology, but essentially it provides them the industrial mechanic skills to be able to work at the treatment plant, and we obviously hope they stay on to continue services with the city. So, doing some things outside the box, working with HR to try to, grow our own talent. Next slide, slide 4, key budget priorities. So we're always in discussions with Director Zena and DPD for growth. So we support the Memphis 3.0 plan. We make sure we assess and check capacity in certain anchor areas to make sure, where they're pushing it out, we're going to be able to serve the area with sewer. We'll continue our sewer assessment rehabilitation program. That's our SARP-10 program. They continually assess the sewers, rank them, and then put them in order for, rehabilitation, whether that's trenchless rehab that we've discussed before, CIPP, or actually digging and replacing the pipe. We'll continue the upgrades at the Maxon treatment plant. That's a $320 million project. It's been going on since about 2018, 2019, got 2 years left. And then we'll finalize design of a large solar system that's scheduled for that plant. Next slide, slide 5, budget comparison. Similar to the others, pretty flat budget, but you will see similar increases in personnel and M&S. M&S, our primary drivers there are chemical usage and utilities. And also, we obviously see the inflationary costs with metals and storage supplies and things like that, mostly at the treatment plants. Revenues, revenues continue to, be 160, 163 a year.
Yeah, so let's talk about that really quickly. So you've got your adopted budget again for FY25, and then you're forecasting a $37 million loss. What is the $13.87 million in cash? Well, I got 2 questions for you. You've got a big variance from adopted to forecast of $8 million for M&S, and then you got what looks like a one-time $13.9 million project. Can you walk me through that? Right.
So materials and supplies, that includes your carry forward as well. So when my folks look at the budget, they're forecasting they're going to spend some carry forward from the previous fiscal year that's already in the, carry forward in contracts, plus the majority of the adopted budget. And that can probably be fine-tuned a little. I don't know if we'll get that high, but that's why that number is outside what was adopted.
Yeah, but I think what I'm saying is if I look at years past, if I look year to year, right, if I go 23 to 24, 24 to 25, you clip as what I would call a normal clip of growth, right? 2.5. Yeah, you got it, right? Yeah. And then you have this massive $8 million swing.
It's an over forecast, but it does include, like I mentioned, it does include carry forward.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. I hear you.
But it's an overstated forecast.
That's okay. Hey, look, well, it's not okay, but I hear you. I got it. I'm glad that you feel that confident. All right, walk me through the project costs.
We'll pay more attention to that for next fiscal year.
Well, mainly it's just, again, I want to know if you're unique in this fund, in your utility. You get to control your own destiny to some degree.
Right.
Every other director does not have that ability, and so they have to answer probably with more scrutiny to the council, whereas you have more scrutiny to regulators and the state of Tennessee and the federal government, all that stuff.
Right.
So when I see that, I'm just trying to determine, as I'm getting a feel for the whole budget season from division to division, where M&S is really flowing as we start to have conversations with these 2 guys about where we're going to really end up next year. I mean, look, I'll say it again. It's kind of a more broader general comment. I can tell each and every operator that works for me, or as Antonio can tell each and every one of you guys, to get it down to zero. You could be the greatest operator on the sun. There are just some things that are just not possible to manage to. And so I'm trying to get the best. I mean, I hear you on you, but I'm just saying this generally. That is why I keep asking about it. I'm trying to get a feel for that number. It's that, and I'll tell you why. Even in Jim's last year, we went after that number hard, and we may have gone at it too hard, obviously. So I want to make sure that we don't. I think for me, I'd rather tell the public exactly where we're at and be darn close than try to say we're going to have this awesome number and then we have to come back in 6 months and then at the end of the year. And that's more, again, a general comment. So I'll keep us moving. Walk me through the 13.9.
So the 13.9, made a little help in finance here, but that's essentially project capital cost. So that's expenses that the sewer fund accrues through our PAYGO, and then that stays there until the project is closed and starts to get and it's closed and put on the asset list.
Oh, okay.
So
got it.
Did I explain that?
Yeah,
It's
counting
progress.
it's counting future.
Yeah.
Okay. But it will be booked to debt, or is it capital PAYGO? You said PAYGO, which I know we do use capital PAYGO.
Right, enterprise fund, and then it'll be booked to debt when it becomes an asset.
So we will roll it.
Right, it'll be booked to our capital, basically our capital asset line. Capital PAYGO.
It's cash.
Sewer and, they have cash.
Right. I got all the cash. I've said this for years.
Right.
But yeah, so in your point too is for you, there's no, your debt, you prefer cash in this. Why the cash over the debt?
Well,
I mean, you're going to book it as a capital asset. I get the accounting function. I guess what I'm going for is...
because cash is free as long as we have a healthy reserve. So historically speaking, over the past 15 years, sewer fund has, and we've been able to cover a few emergencies that have come up. The most recent one, probably put a little more strain on cash reserve is what we had like, and that's why, I came back to council last month and switched 2 projects from cash to sewer revenue bonds. So we just sold a new series of revenue bonds for $65 million. So going forward, unless it's a very small project, the 99% will be from bonds, so we can build.
And that's a
back up that
global
cash
debt
reserve.
picture, right? When we that counts against the whole stack. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the real. That is the real answer.
And that changed a year ago because they used to treat all the funds separately. Now we're all rolled up into the overall city.
That is problematic.
Yeah.
Well, because it's problematic because it's the formula based off the same population. So we get tagged for the hard dollar count against. We get tagged on the future revenues against the same population count. I mean, it's the same group of. I mean, you can't cheat.
Anyways,
right. And we're not talking about somebody with a calculator. We're talking about Wall Street.
Right.
They see that. That's an unfortunate way for them to go about that going forward. So basically, anyway, but for what we're talking about ultimately is we have these funds. It's based on a number of very specific payers paying a very specific rate over a very specific time. We know that because we can look literally at the utility bills that we send out. And the problem with that is so can Wall Street, and they can calc what they think the risk tension looks like between the census, the pay rate, and the collections, and our global debt picture, which are issued in multiple different ways. The city's full faith and credit is behind each and every one of them, which is why they've lobbed us into one, but they're all funded in different ways. Ad valorem taxes, storm fees, sewer fees, MLGW gets electric, gas, and water fees. Wall Street's not looking at it that way anymore, which is very unfortunate for us, especially in a crappy interest rate environment.
Yeah, it's a very conservative approach by Wall Street.
I think, I hear you. All right, well, thanks. That explains it. I know real quick, you're going to go into your wrap up, but I had Jeff in the queue. He had a question early on, and I wanted to get to him before I forgot. Councilman Warren.
In medicine, one of the things they do to try to get primary care into areas that there's not primary care is that they agree to pay for their medical school, and then you have to pay them back, either in the military or the public health corps or health manpower shortage areas in states. As we're looking at trying to train these engineers that we need, is there a way we could do a contractual deal as they sign up and we hire them if we're going to pay for their education, that we get 1 year for every year of education that's paid for in service before they're free to go other places. Have y'all thought about that and done that in the past and it hadn't worked? Or if not, is there some reason we can't do that in the future that I'm unaware of?
We certainly can, and we do that for the CDL program. So that program was created a year ago, and the applicant who goes through the class, they sign a contract, and they're required to pay back the city. You know, if they leave within the first year, 50%. If they leave within the first year, 100%. If they leave within the second year, 50%. The mechanic, wastewater treatment plant mechanic, and the wastewater operator, we do not have that requirement. One, it's a minimum 3-year commitment, and our feeling is that once we train them, our pay scale is pretty good for mechanics and operators for the city at the treatment plant, and we feel that the work environment and the shifts that we offer, we hope that they'll stay on and continue the challenge.
But we've been losing them, right?
We have lost some
What's the
grade
percentage
4
loss of
operators.
the people that we've trained?
I'd have to get that for you.
General gut feel. You can get it for me. Give me your
Probably
gut.
less than 5.
Less than 5%.
Yeah, but remember, it takes 3 years to get somebody
Yeah, I mean, it's-
fully licensed.
Yeah, but I mean, if you
and
got,
the program's only been going on
you
for
trained in a year.
well, every 3 years we've probably passed 12 to 15 that have gotten operator licenses, and maybe only lost 5.
That's 33%. Okay, that's not 5%.
Right, I
So
understand.
yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is, we're looking at that. Think about it as you move forward and you offer contracts.
I think it's a great. I mean, look, scaling it is. I think those things are important. Look, everybody that I knew that went and worked in finance signed signing bonuses. If they didn't stay there 2 or 3 years at the bank they went to and they didn't pay that back, they got sued. Right? I mean, like that was the carrot and the stick, right? So I mean, just generally, I mean, I think Councilman Warren is right. I think there's other divisions that need to continue to take and look at opportunities like that because.
I mean, if we're training them, that's one of the things we have with our bus drivers. We're bringing people in. They don't have that Class E license or whatever they're supposed to have to drive. We train them to drive, then they leave, and they take that Class E and take it on the road. So, I mean, I think part of our paying for their education, we should, ask them to donate back that time. I mean, I did that for my med school. I had 3 years I had to pay back, and it's a good deal.
Yes, sir.
So we should look at that as we move forward.
That's
if you
a
can.
good comment. We'll look at that, and I want to confirm those numbers. I'll get you the
And,
how many we've
but
had.
the
Yeah.
key thing is, let's take this concept not just in your division, but in other divisions where we're having a hard time with labor, particularly IT, things along that line that we're training people up, and think about doing it there.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Great
you.
comment. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, Scott.
All right, last thing. You got a lot of vacancies. You still hit your labor number. Is that all driven by so again, you got 68 vacant positions, you filled 9, you're down to 59. Well, let's just assume throughout the last year, 30 of those were vacant. We still have personnel expenses sitting roughly right at par. Is that just all driven by overtime?
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I will say this, I said this to you before. I sit on TASSER specifically to wastewater.
Yeah.
You started talking about those. It's not this. It's like a senior environmental, and you're required to have one per
Shift.
The entire state is having this issue.
Yes.
It's kind of funny because they're the state, meaning they can change the requirements or they can. There's many things that they can do to help, but I do know that I promise that I recognize that. Like that is not a joke. I mean, they're trying to bring people out of retirement right now.
It's not just state; it's across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, wastewater is it's not sexy, and people don't think about going into it, but it's extremely important. So
Would be if Kardashian did it.
But yeah, a lot of it's driven on overtime just because of those licensing requirements at the treatment plant, as well as continuing to fix services and respond to backups after hours. So.
All right, let's wrap her up.
Yeah, so last slide, just like Stormwater Fund, as a reminder, Sewer Enterprise Fund is on the MOGNW bill paid by all the users. This is inside and outside the city. We do serve unincorporated Shelby County. We serve most of Bartlett, all of Germantown, some of Lakeland, some of Collierville, and for the time being, Horn Lake Creek Basin Authority. They're required to come off by 2033, and then the increase in inflationary cost and chemicals are M&S drivers. All right, thank you. That's
Awesome. Thank you. Colleagues, any question or comments? Thanks. Look forward. Like I said, great from where I'm sitting. Great start thus far. Look forward to seeing what fresh set of eyes in the spot with some experienced talent can do together in y'all's division. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everyone, obviously, with everything that's going on, we're going to move with, I'll say not everything that's going on, with the evolution of the day. We've had to move 2 divisions to a later date, and we will get the schedule back out. With that being said, we are adjourned. Oh, wait. Oh, we have solid waste. Sorry, we have solid waste. Sorry. Solid waste. Sorry. It was out of order for me. Not out of order. I asked for Val not to put the tabs in. Oh, Phil was happy. Sorry. We've solid waste, and then we're out of here. I apologize. Oh. No,
No, it's my fund. Yeah. We don't have anything talking about internal fund. Well, you're supposed to.
All right, we're going to begin with the solid waste division. Director Davis, the floor is yours.
Okay. Philip Davis, Solid Waste Director, 2081 Old Oak Cove, Memphis 3119. So what we got here is the FY26 solid waste budget. Of course, this solid waste is a special revenue fund funded by the solid waste fees that are billed to approximately 171,000 customers on their MLGW bill. This is our org chart for the solid waste division by legal level. Slide 3. Here's our request for the FY26 expenses. Our priorities include filling positions, acquiring fleet, repairing the Bellevue transfer station, expanding the strike team and convenience center program, and covering the escalating operating costs. Slide 4. Here's our historical budget comparison. Our personnel expenses are forecasted to increase as our equipment comes in. Our M&S expenses are forecasted to increase due to vehicle maintenance, facility repairs, and fuel. Our capital outlay expenses are expected to increase with the purchase of more garbage and recycle carts. Debt obligation, and we come to y'all. We'll be coming again for vehicles that we ordered about 8 weeks ago. So we came to y'all last in November for $5.9 million worth of equipment. Transfers out is our debt service, and our contribution to fund balance is going to decrease as we spend on personnel and fleet.
Where is your fund balance today? Internal fund balance, roughly? Do you feel, oh, you got it. Neat.
This is yesterday, but 16 million.
Perfect.
And that fluctuates with MLGW deposits where we are in the month.
So your fund balance expenditures, your balanced budget, forecasting a balanced budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, let's keep moving. Slide 5.
Slide 5. Our key budget drivers are in line with the budget priorities I mentioned earlier. This investment will basically improve service delivery and help move the estimated 400,000 tons of waste that Memphians generate that we collect. Performance metrics, these I picked bulk waste because that seems to be most of my complaints. And this is gathered using our performance data from 311. Our complaints from customers remain steady at 1% of the customers that we serve. Our response time is trending in the wrong direction, but as we improve the fleet and personnel, as those assets and the people get added to the system, that number should go in the right direction. And our diversion of waste from landfill is improving, and we're going to continue this effort to protect the environment. That's going to be one of my initiatives that I mentioned later. Slide 7. So new initiatives. So my first new initiative is continue to expand the convenience center and strike team. We budgeted this year for a little more than $1.7 million in personnel equipment. Expected to roll this out in Q2 FY26. We're going to take over and expand the operating hours of the Collins Yard facility that's currently operated by Public Works. Identify at least one more location for a convenience center, and then add a dozen or so people plus equipment to the strike team. Slide 8. Another new initiative is organics, recycling, and composting. We are aiming for this to be initially budget neutral. Expected rollout Q3 of FY26. And what we're trying to do here is take all this yard waste and leaves in the fall, sticks and grass in spring and summer. We're hoping to expand that program to divert more of that to composting. We've got a 16-acre permitted composting facility that's already permitted by the state of Tennessee. We're in current contract negotiations with a vendor that's been selected to operate the composting facility. And we're in talks right now that'll require us to come back to you guys before too long, because we're going to have a sublease down in Inslee Bottoms where our compost plant is located. We're going to sublease that to the contractor as part of this contract. So that we'll have like a 10-year or so operating agreement where they have. Pardon? This is a new contract. Denali We Care.
Okay.
Which is a company, a national company, operates in all 50 states that specializes.
Inslee Bottom's down there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it took me a minute.
Yeah, no, it's just south of the new TVA combined cycle plant. Not new anymore, combined cycle
There's a
plant.
big hunting place down there. For some reason, did we not have a compost site up in Shelby Forest? Am I crazy? That's the county.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I don't know, it may be mulching and not
That's what
necessarily.
I'm saying. I thought we had
composting.
this mulching site. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Pardon? Yeah.
Was that where Compost Ferry was?
I'm not sure exactly where Compost Ferry is operating out of. I know that they have a facility where they are.
And I'm talking about 20. This was probably 36 months ago. Before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our hope is like to partner not only with this contractor that we have, but our main drive is to be customer focused, so residential focused. So there will be partnerships with folks like the Compost Ferry to expand that and offer curbside composting to our residential customers.
Yeah, so I took us off on the digression, so I own that. I will add, so just to clarify, since I digressed this, to be clear, the city has a state permitted composting site in Inslee Bottoms, south that away.
Yes.
To be clear. All right, sorry. Councilwoman Logan, since I got us all, I'm gonna open the floor up because I know you had a question.
This is just me.
Yes, ma'am.
And forgive me because I don't know. What's the difference in the mulching and the composting that they're doing? The mulching we're doing.
Legal definition, but basically mulching is grinding and reducing volume of woody material, and composting involves taking a variety of organic material, and it's been described to me as like baking a cake. You need a chef to do composting. You need to grind. All you need is a grinder, a blender to make wood logs into wood chips and mulch. Composting, you would add like a certain amount of nitrogen-rich material, so food waste, leaves.
My man,
That's what I
you
thought.
toss
I
you a
know it.
banana peel, some eggs out in the backyard, you have some
Yeah.
beautiful roses.
I know what
right.
that is, but is it the same thing like mulch that you can use for your?
You would use it. It would be more nutrient rich.
Okay,
Yeah.
we just
so-
have a
yes,
okay.
ma'am. So
more fancy mulch.
yeah, it would be something that would be used as a
Okay.
soil amendment by farmers.
I kid you not, my father for years took, like, when the coffee was done that day and the eggshells were done that day, we just walked out into the back and then we hope the dogs didn't find it. But Jeff will tell you it works. I mean, honestly, if you're sitting here and you're not taking household and you've got a place that you can protect, if you plant or if that's something that you do in your yard, you will be shocked at how pretty your flowers will come. Hot pro tip.
It does work, and they're
does.
back doing it. And they brought a huge container for that party I had last weekend, and we were able to
Right.
compost all the stuff from there.
That's awesome.
I didn't know you could compost beer bottles.
What are you talking?
Okay. Another new initiative is our fleet replacement. Our budget allocation for this year, around $6 million, 24 pieces of equipment. FY26, another $5 million for 21 vehicles. We're also going to start in FY26. We're going to dabble in leasing vehicles. There is some opportunity we think there might be for certain types of vehicles that are assigned to a particular person on a daily basis, where we can keep track of who's responsible and keep maintenance at a minimum, and work under a lease agreement and have newer vehicles in our fleet. So we're going to try that out in FY26.
I told Chief Adams that I am not opposed to this. Matter of fact, I think it's probably a worthy, because I know he's looking at other divisions, but I will say this for your division, for general services. You have to, I've been down this road. It has to be managed like, I mean, I think what I worry about is not the directors or the deputy directors, and it's not to impugn anybody, but I feel like when people think lease and lease program, they think it's kind of a little bit more of a hands-off. It's quite frankly kind of the honest, but opposite as far as care maintenance, and there are some things that they will in those agreements, but I'm not worried about the legal team looking at the agreements. It's mainly ensuring that our operators, to your point, and I love that you chose the language, specific uses for specific players. I know, I think if I got a list from you of what you're thinking, it's probably exactly the same thing, but I'm happy we're doing that because I'm interested to see what the end result financially, I hope it's there. I think it's going to be, but I hope people understand that just because it's a lease vehicle doesn't mean that it's
Right.
not ours.
No,
for the time being.
and we're not talking garbage trucks driven by a different guy every day going to the landfill. These are like sedans that are driven by a supervisor daily, that kind of thing. So that's basically the timeline for delivery, because I know everybody, especially this time of year with high volume and the stuff out at the curb right now, people want to know this new equipment. I've been talking about it for a year, but delivery now through November of calendar year 25 is when we're talking about the 25 equipment coming in. The FY26 equipment should start coming in Q3 and Q4 of 26, and we're planning on doing we just did another purchase about 6 or 8 weeks ago. I guess we'll come to you guys for the financing for the FY26 budget soon. I know we're in budget, that's why we haven't kind of come to y'all yet, but we're coming soon. We'll do, after the 1st of July, we'll do another order of vehicles, and we're going to start this cadence where we have trucks being delivered annually, and try to achieve our fleet replacement cycle in that way. Another initiative that goes hand in hand with the fleet And this is where I chose to put my authorized complement slide, because you will see there are a lot of vacant positions that were created with the fee increase. I can't fill the positions without the fleet, and the fleet is 12 to 18 months lead time for delivery. So this is where we are, and this is how we plan to fill. I have 29, as you see up there, 29 or 45, but 29 in collections, important. Plan to be filled between now and June 30th. FY26, as the 26 equipment comes in, we'll be filling another 67, and in 27, that's when the balance will be out, and we'll be able to fully staff out based on the ordering of equipment. And you can see the budget allocation for 25, 26, 27, and the additional hiring. So our challenges, cost escalation. We're monitoring our cash flow and the solid waste fund balance to plan for inevitable increases in personnel and equipment costs due to inflation. Volume of waste. We're adding people and equipment to expand our capacity to collect waste. We're also investing in organics, recycling, and composting. But just know that at some point, we just can't keep throwing more and more away. And we'll, in the future, behavior change will have to be put on the table for our customer and how we place waste at the curb.
Yeah, I'm there now. But whenever you want to bring it to the council, I mean, honestly, the thing that I like, we start at our house, like we have to box breakdown day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And that's like a team effort. I mean, I got a 9-year-old out there with a box cutter. Or, I mean, my point is that, yeah, I mean, you have a wide, bulky, I mean, we're doing it, and a lot of people aren't, et cetera. We go on and on just about the different
Right.
types of stuff we pick up. We've talked about it ad nauseum.
Right.
Which is why we created this fund and why we've supported it. I will tell you, yeah, I think today is not the day to have that conversation. I think this body, I can hear these two ladies. I think this body is ready to really dig in on some of that stuff. Yeah, let's put a pin in that and come back to it right after budget's over. I think the political tailwind is there. And honestly, even if it doesn't, this is I've got 2.5 years here. I'd rather at least be on the record voting on an ordinance, even if it has to set something in motion that doesn't go effective for 3 years.
Right.
Meaning in 3 years, this is going to be the new law of the land. You've got time to get used to it. Now, whatever that is, we've got to work through. But kind of like over time, I'm done kicking the can down the road here.
Yeah. I understand. And also dovetailing into that is our support for the community enhancement team and their 20 environmental enforcement officers. This is, we're going to start enforcing, the city, is going to start enforcing, being more deliberate about the existing rules that are on the books, that are outlined in the ordinance, and being more deliberate about enforcing those. In the past, the encouragement has been make it go away, and you can't keep up if you just keep trying to make it go away. I mean, at some point you have to hold it accountable.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think no disagreements here. We've always seemed to run into legal issues or whatever. And yes, I mean, again, I'm not the ideas man for that world, but I'll tell you that I'm open to hearing anything and everything that y'all have, and I think everybody on this body has. So I've got Logan and Warren in the queue.
Okay.
Thank you. And I too agree that we need to begin that process of, if nothing else, education. And if we start now, and there's a 3-year window, so it'll involve education. But what does that look like? So as Chairman said, if you could bring just a high-level overview of what that looks like, including the communications that would go with it, because it will take that amount of time to get everybody acclimated to the new system. So that was just, I agree with that. The thing that I want to ask about, where in your budget speaks to improved services in Area E?
So right now, you will see our, I guess, twofold. We are increasing there's an increase in cost being spent in Area E, not only with the vendor to perform the services, but also our strike team expansion also has citywide responsibility. So not just A through D, but also Area E in combating. The environmental enforcement component is a big deal in Area E. We see a lot of fencing. We see a lot of oversized tree debris in Area E. We're starting to see more and more rental set-outs in Area E, and there needs to be more enforcement of the rules out there as well. Because of it being serviced by a contractor, there's not as many city solid waste employees passing by a house every day and seeing these things. And so the combination of community enhancements, additional environmental enforcement officers, plus our redoubling our efforts, not only with the vendor, but with our oversight of the vendor, that's where it all is.
I'm sorry if I missed that
Sure.
part, the oversight of the vendor.
It's included in our personnel expenses, in the supervision, in supervisory capacity.
Could I suggest?
Yeah.
I think exactly where you get a flow chart or an org chart.
Sure.
That is going to demonstrate, because again, I know where she's going, but
Right.
one, because I get it. She has to articulate these things
No,
to
I
people.
got you. Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you could show who, or just even bring the person or the individuals that are responsible for managing the vendor,
Sure.
that would be very helpful. Because that dialogue between her and Councilwoman Green, there's one other single member rep that I think he bumps into, that they know that this individual is the person that manages the vendor, so that
Right.
I think that would be very helpful. And then if she's, Councilwoman, if you don't mind me saying it, if she's dissatisfied with the level of coverage or whatever, we can look at the funding mechanisms to add to it or take away. So was that close?
Absolutely.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
All right, Councilwoman, is that all you had?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Councilman Warren.
You know, I think that what I'm hearing Mr. Davis say is that we still got major problems with people dumping, couches and everything on the curb all over town. And at one point when we were at full complement, maybe we were taking care of that, 20 or 25 years ago. And I'm not sure that we can really afford 3 years to let people get used to the idea that we need to do it.
Right.
Yeah, I know what I'm
Yeah.
saying is it's arbitrary. So my point is, I think if we're going to be thinking about this sooner as opposed to later, and realize that this is going to be something that it's going to be like real ID. No one's going to do real ID until the deadline really hits. And then all of a sudden they're going to figure out they got to do it and how to do it. Okay, so until we have a deadline, until we actually start enforcing these rules, people are not going to learn it.
Certainly.
So it doesn't make any sense to me to wait to do it. Bring us the thing, let's move to it if we can, if that makes sense to my colleagues, because I don't think giving more time is going to let people learn it. I think we have to say this is the rule, and they learn it. You learn while you're building an airplane,
Right.
and we can have some relief in warning tickets and things like that for 6 months. But we can say that'll be the learning process when we're out there letting people know, okay, you can't do this anymore.
Perfect.
All right, that's just my thoughts. So thank you.
Yeah, I think these are good. And if you, honestly, spend time with some of the inspectors. They build case files. It's robust. It's a really robust exercise. I didn't really fully appreciate it till I saw, especially on some of the code side. But yes, sir. I think that's great points. Councilwoman White.
Thank you, Chairman. I was looking through the presentation, and a few things that I would like to see is, I know last year we had that changeover with the strike force. What I would like to see is, from maybe going back to maybe FY23 or FY24, kind of what your complement was, what we increased it to last year, kind of what that breakdown is. Okay. And then also whatever metrics you all use to determine whether we're doing better, whether or not these changes, the service has improved, whether it's increased, what metrics do we use to determine that? So I would like to just see that in a snapshot.
Sure.
And if you could even break down, even from a budgetary standpoint, if you're able to, any amount kind of allocated to those, groups of positions, or this is the strike team force, and this is how much was allocated for them, and this is how much we spent. Just kind of a good overview, because I remember last year with the additions, but I'm not really seeing from this presentation what it is that we did and whether or not it went well.
Right, and
Or work.
and we've collected data on what the strike team has collected. We keep a running total of what the strike team has collected since their inception in February of last year, February of this past year, and then how we've added equipment and people. At the first equipment that's come in, we've had about 5 vehicles that have come in from the FY 2025 order, and we allocated them all. I think all but one to. Okay. So I think we've allocated all of them to the strike team.
Okay.
So,
and that'll even
yeah,
be good to see too. Any new equipment, trucks, those things, just so that I can see what it was that we said we were going to do last year, and shore it up with what actually happened. And I don't want it just limited to the strike force. I mean, just the entire complement.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Man, good questions and comments today. Councilman Logan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to just also say thank you to Darius. He's always on top of things when I call. I appreciate the expertise and, always being Johnny on the spot. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, good. They're a good team. I got a chance to sit down a couple of years ago with them, the administration negotiations team, and ASME all in one room, and no one got hurt.
Right.
All right, let's go to slide 11.
Okay. Yep. And then, so I talked a little bit cost of escalation, volume of waste. The equipment supply chain is also a risk. We've proactively ordered vehicles for the next 2 years already, and we're getting ready to do the FY 27 order. But I mean, these aren't Toyotas on a parking lot someplace.
So let's talk about that really quickly at a high level. Chief Adams, you too, if you don't mind. No, I mean, you're good. I see Manny nodding. As we are rolling into this, and Melvin's obviously not up today.
Right.
We've got to beat the marketplace. And I know that with those big contracts, I know you guys have been working on, I know you've been working on them for 2+ years now, trying to get all that going. We all read the news, it's going to go up and down, but the pricing is going to move. And to your point, so I'm glad your order, I don't need it near term, but in the coming weeks when we can get a breath, I'd really like to see, and I'm happy to come sit down just to see it, I'd really like to see where we are on total capital allocated by the divisions that we're doing major orders for, like police, fire, solid waste, street maintenance. Like I had in my notes for street maintenance, I can't even remember what we ordered from the Fund 245 in 2020. We did 2? Yeah, right. But I know we made, and look, I'm all happy. It's good to get a refresher, I think, on some of that stuff and just see where we're at too. Yeah. I am concerned.
It's a very real problem. I mean, the reason I don't mean to be presumptuous about ordering equipment and not coming to y'all and asking to borrow the money yet. But if I didn't order the equipment before April 1, everything was going up 5%.
Yep.
And that's a $380,000-$90,000 garbage truck. And 5% it starts to be material.
Y'all, I mean, look, take something as simple as our uniforms. Those are textiles. I mean, yeah, I don't need to belabor that point. I'd love to get it because we've got so much. You've got so many moving pieces in that with Melvin, and we've just got because I know Councilman Spinoza's asked for and Green have asked for police fire, but I think just getting a comprehensive list of and hey, please don't go car by car. Please don't go car by car. But you get my point. Just a general, this is where we're at. Heat check, I think, would be helpful just to help the council understand because it has been over 3 or 4 years.
Right. And when the just like with labor, the fee increase was projected a 2% year-over-year increase in wages.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then, but I mean, there's also with equipment, it also like 5% on equipment. If it goes up 7%.
And ultimately, it's still getting them in delivery.
Right.
We need delivery, like the transfer station, which is not in there.
Right.
But anyway, the only other question I had, I think, going back to, but I can wait for the metrics, is how the trash truck from the administration's standpoint has been going. I see it more rolling around my neighborhood and out in East Memphis and parts of Cordova more now. But I'd just be more curious. And again, I really don't want to get into it today just because got a lot going on. But I am curious to know how you guys anecdotally are doing. Because what really my next question would be is, and we've talked about kind of at a higher level. I'd really like to engage Memphis brand at some point, or let Chief Houston lead that effort. But ultimately, I'm curious to know what the public thinks on some of the things that we're doing, and some of the changes we've made. Right? It's really one of the things you'll find. Like when Wendy's rolls out a new top to its, it's like, all right, great. Well, we spent an extra 3 cents on that. And it's going to be great for the consumer. And then, you read the numbers later and then you're like, no one gave it, no one cared. You're like, well, great. I'm glad we spent that money. Right. I'm curious to know on some of the initiatives we're doing, if the value is being felt or seen in a real way. And if not, we know we are delivering the value. What do we need to do to make sure that the value is being recognized in some of those things from more of our business side of things, Because I know you guys were working your tails off, and I know that a lot of political capital and real capital has been put into these initiatives. Let's make sure that people know that, let's see what they think about it.
Yeah. As the county is developing a regional solid waste plan right now, putting on my county, regional solid waste planning board chair hat. We're
totally
undergoing
unqualified for that position.
We're undergoing a regional plan revision right now and a waste characterization study. And there's currently a survey going on. I think some folks have been out to the neighborhood association meetings. That survey, we do encourage like all Memphians, everybody in the county, actually, Germantown, everywhere. But I want to make sure Memphis's voice is heard in that survey. It asks a lot of questions about what you think. It's currently out right now, countywide, including Memphis. And I do want to hear that feedback, because some of that information, some of the questions ask about quality of service, type of service, recycling, composting, and what gauging people's interest and drive in that. So.
If you'll get at least my office that survey, here's what I'm willing to do. If I can do it legally, I just got to figure it out. But I will happily put up a series of raffle prizes or opportunities or whatever I need to get engagement on that. That's a freebie right there if you can get people to actually do it in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. Because if I were to go get anybody else, Memphis brand or whomever, that could be for 1,000 people, depending on how many questions you ask, that could be a $15,000 chunk, and I could spend $500 giving away a Visa gift card and a raffle. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing that. That information is critical right now. All right. Guys, great questions, great feedback. Any other questions for the solid waste team? Please let the record show. I've got Spinoza and Green here as well. Councilman Green, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I apologize for being tardy. I was stuck in meetings across the street. I know when we had our little speed dating, the one thing I was talking to you about was the vacancies, because that was my big concern last year, and I can kind of gather we were sort of dancing around that, and I know some of that problem is fleet, but I was wondering if you could provide us that slide.
I think it's slide 10, and if you need more information on that, if that's not how you want it broken out, please let me know and I can provide that to you.
I guess the one thing that I would like to know is, of that 162, how many have been vacant for more than a year?
I don't
because
have that
I understand we have some fleet issues, but if we have stuff that's been hanging out there for over a year, I know, and we did some of this cleanup with police last year and vacancy savings. This was my biggest concern about increasing the number of positions in solid waste last year. Not that we don't need to be cleaning up more or doing more routes, but we were already having such a hard time filling those positions that if we have 50 that have been open for a year or more, 18 months, 2 years, whatever, I would like to know, because you may eventually be able to get them filled, but in such a tight budget year, I need to know if that's something that we need to be budgeting for this year. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Point of information.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Dr. Warren.
On that, it was my understanding that the reason that a lot of those were still vacant was they were dependent upon vehicles that had not yet arrived. So they're on the budget for the arrival of the vehicles, But you're not filling them until the vehicles get here. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if that makes
Yeah,
a
no, difference.
difference.
And I remembered that, and that we've had that conversation, but the point is, this time last year, we had it was something between 50 and 70 that were vacant last year. And so now we're sitting at 162. So even once we get equipment, I don't know that we're going to be able to put 162 people out. That's my question, is at some point we need to have a realistic estimate of what we should have in the budget. We may eventually get enough equipment to go up to 162, but in a year as tight as this one, we need to make sure that we're having realistic expectations about how many positions are going to be filled in the next year, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I can hop in, I agree. I think here. All right, I'll say the quiet part out loud. Here's the rub. We have an MOU. It is very similar to the police and fires MOU because they are frontline first responding players. And so instead of basically listing out the fact that we're probably only going to hire 30 people of the let's say we hire 15 of the 113 in collections, the issue really isn't the open rate or what we used to call the attrition. The rub is we still have to get out there, so we end up paying overtime. So we can bring the vacancies down to what we think we're going to fill that year and have an entire line for overtime. The problem is that you just put out there what your overtime number is. I can tell you I'm never going to do that when I'm running my business. So that's the, I mean, again, I hate to bring it because we're in impasse. I want to be very careful about that conversation while we're up here, but I'm going to tell you, go read the memorandums of understanding on certain divisions. That is going to be the rub.
No, and I understand that, but we have an MOU with MPA too, and we're in impasse with them too. But last year we looked at that number, and there were hundreds of positions that hadn't been filled for many years, and we took those savings. We're able to bring down the tax rate because of it. It's the same sort of thing. I just remember this number being large last year, larger compared to other divisions, and this year it's increased by almost 100. So that's why I asked that question in our speed dating, and I'm bringing it up now, is because this feels like another division we really need to right size.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd say the one thing is we did, and I was part of that cutting. The only thing is now we've got this goes back to managing the overtime. Let's say it's a zero sum game. We just have got to press as the council on which thing we want to manage, meaning they're going to be 8 million over, 6-8 million over on overtime. We cut the positions, but now they're going to be over their budget. So we started this conversation yesterday. So this is just the good thing is this is why I like budget season. This is a good continuation of the conversation. I think Councilman Green is absolutely right to get that information, and then we as a body have to determine how we want to manage that issue. And she's right. Do you eliminate this kind of the way it's always been done, which are these false positions, and just say, look, this is the hard number. We think we're going to hire this many. We're going to reallocate this line item to, and you can call it whatever you want. You can call it extra service hours, whatever you wanted to call it. And basically you have to come to the council and get permission for it. There's many different triggers, but we agree. I think, and what I'm saying is we're going to have to determine, and the administration too, because they've got their role to play, how we're going to start booking and showing these things. Because I do get it from the public. Like when Mayor Young got in, there's an anecdotal story about, he's like, what is this attrition number, right? What is this funny number? Vacancies filled, I got it, has also been one of those weird numbers. But again, it's just kind of how they've always done it. I like that we're bringing it up and we're taking a fresh look at it. But ultimately, it's not like it's not going out into the ether. But we do need to have more transparent, I think, communication with the public, like why that is. I think it's a very fair point. But I'm with her. I want to see that number. I want to see that number.
Truthfully, just to the administration, I think it would be beneficial for us to see vacancies last year versus this year across the board. What our total is, in all divisions and total compared to this year. I am hoping that with all those wonderful raises that we gave everybody last year, that we have better recruitment and retainment. But that's a good way for us to get that data and if it's true or not too. So just, I think, I'm not trying to pick on Director Davis. He happens to have a large complement, and so it comes up with him, just like it does with Chief Davis. But it is an important number for us to see in other divisions too.
Thank you. Very, very good points. Colleagues, any other questions? All right. Solid Waste team, thank you. Please follow up. And Regal obviously has been killing it on the notes, so we'll get with you guys. For what it's worth, I appreciate all the hard work. I know a lot of behind the scenes work has gone on, both operationally and with the equipment. I appreciate the conversations that I know that you're having with a lot of members and just the engagement from your division. And Darius, you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, y'all. Everybody, due to some evolutions today, we had to reschedule our last two presenters. We will get a new schedule out for you. Colleagues, I do want to ask one thing, since we are not coming back tomorrow, except for me, for impasse. Yay. Oh, Jerry will be here for her 7 impasses. But in all sincerity, so listen, seriously, CIP. You got we're going to have CIP and operating, the general fund operating review that we started yesterday. We're going to bring it back Monday because I think members were very interested in that conversation on how we're going to finish out fiscal year 25. What I don't like doing is bringing directors here just to bring them here because they do have their day-to-day things they're going to manage. So if you will do me a favor and please look at the CIP list over the weekend or really tomorrow or tonight, and if there is a director or a division in particular that you would like, police and fire will be, I'm going to go ahead and bring the ones that I think are probably going to have questions, or at least give them a heads up. But if there is something specific, I would greatly appreciate you letting Regala know. We will have that director or that individual that you would like to speak to or have on the record here. But I really, really, really want to respect, as much as I want them to respect our time, I want to respect theirs because they do have jobs to do. So there's no point in bringing somebody from libraries if we don't want to talk about that. So if you'll do me the favor, and if you see something or a project that you would like addressed specifically, we will communicate that over the weekend and have that individual here and ready to go to speak on that item. I think that would be beneficial for everyone. I suspect the main focus on Monday is going to be on how we finish up FY25 going into 26. So to that end, if you've got questions for finance or et cetera, you're welcome. It's FY25, so you're welcome to dig into that. But that will be the start of our conversation Monday. And then we will, Regala and I and Chief Hyman will get out a revised schedule once we figure out where those other two divisions can come back to. And honestly, get with you guys and make sure that your schedules allow for it. And because with those two divisions in particular, I'm aware that most of the time 13 people want to be here for it. With that being said, thank you all for an incredible week. I said this earlier, yesterday's council meeting and the way that we started budget in the 5 years that I've been doing it, the members were so engaged, dialed in and on, and I'm very appreciative to all of you for coming and getting budget season started the way that you have. I hope we can continue it. Thank you very much. If I don't see you, have a wonderful weekend. Administration, God bless you. We're out.